Okay, first in pod after round 2 of the divisional round. I just got back to my spot from watching in person. The Bills defeat the Ravens 27-25, setting up another Bills and Chiefs playoff matchup. The Eagles are on 2 for an NFC East showdown with the Commanders in the NFC Championship game. And back to talk about it, 3-time All-Pro Patrick Peterson. I'm Andrew Fillipponi with Spencer Ray producing. This is a thing we do called First in Pod. It's regular football talk after every game. We did the 2 divisional round games on Saturday, so there's a episode out. It should be in your feed from those 2 games, so we're going to concentrate on what happened on Sunday. I just fought gridlock traffic out of Orchard Park in the middle of lake effect snow to get back here, Pat, and almost a $200 Uber ride to talk about this game. And it was worth it because I got to see the Bills and Ravens play a classic. Really, it's going to be much like Jackie Smith in the Super Bowl. It's going to be about a tight end dropping a ball that would have probably put this game into maybe overtime. The Bills could have had a 2-minute drive and set up a kick maybe to win the game. But for all intents and purposes, that drop ended the game and ended the dream for Lamar Jackson of making it to his first Super Bowl in what is probably going to be another MVP season, Pat. And I think the moral of the story here, the bottom line of this game, is that once again in a big game, the Ravens beat themselves.
Yep.
And Lamar Jackson, I just caught the press conference before we jumped on here. He was talking about that, and he was blaming himself for some sloppy plays early in the game, like the interception, which was his fault, and then the fumble where the ball kind of just slipped out. But this has really defined them in the Lamar Jackson era, is that if they play their best game, they're really tough to beat. But in these playoff games, Pat, they have self-inflicted wounds where it's not even so much about what the defense does to combat them or suppress what they're doing. It's just they have these errors, mental and physical, that cost them big games.
Yeah, 100%. It came down to obviously the Ravens committing 2 turnovers and the Buffalo Bills committing no turnovers. Because at the end of the day, it came down
3
to
turnovers from Lamar.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 3. Yeah, you're right. 3 turnovers.
And then the Andrews fumble, so 3.
Exactly. So 3 turnovers for the Ravens for the Andrew fumble, which was a huge play and a momentum change in that game, which ended up giving the Bills the 8-point lead because they end up ultimately kicking the field goal. So the turnovers, like you said, the self-inflicted wounds just continue to kill the Baltimore Ravens in big moments. You cannot have these type of turnovers in these games because of the ramifications that this game has. Like, this is a win or go home type situations, and we have to understand that protecting the ball at all times is at a high because the Buffalo Bills, I've been watching them. I don't know how many turnovers they have in general, but when I do watch them as a team, when they do come on television, they're always punching at the football. So I know Jim Harbaugh put that on their mind going into this game, knowing that the weather was going to be a factor, that this team is going to be ball hunting. So we have to make sure that we secure the ball as best as we can, because that ultimately is what's going to decide this ball game, who wins the turnover battle. And the Buffalo Bills end up winning the turnover battle, and they won the football game as well. But it was a classic, hands down.
That's why the Bills are here. They had the best turnover differential in the league this year. It was plus 24. And they're plus 3 in this game, so now it's plus 27. I forget what the Denver turnover differential was, but still, I mean, that's been their calling card this year. And that's what you and I have given Josh Allen so much credit for on the show all year long, is that the playmaking was still there from him.
Yep.
And he reduced and greatly negated the big time negative plays. He eliminated those.
He did.
We didn't see that in this game. And those, and I was talking to my uncle, who's a gigantic Bills fan, about this before we went over to the game tonight. Those hero ball plays that he did a lot over the years, maybe pressing too hard, wanting to be the reason why they win, making so much money, being a franchise guy. He's let the game come to him more this year than in previous seasons. And it's – go ahead, Pat.
No, I agree with you 100%, and I believe that's what has been the game changer in this season versus the season that he's played before. Because you look at it, years before, the interception number is through the roof. Now it's under is less than less than 7, I believe, if I'm
And
not mistaken.
yeah, six.
You know what I mean? So if he don't turn the ball over, we all know what he can do running the ball. We all know what he can do throwing the football. And their defense is good enough to keep teams under 21 points. So if you don't turn the ball over as a quarterback in these games, most NFL games come down to one possession, ball games. So if you don't turn the ball over, your defense is going to keep you in the game. Now you have the ball, 9 times out of 10, the last drive, you put yourself in position to win ball games. So now that he understands that and the game is coming to him much better, the offense is being more efficient than it was, because it was efficient, when he was, putting up the high numbers, but the interception number is what hindered their offense for being really, really successful in winning ball games in crunch moments. So for him not to have those interception numbers being so big now, it's a reason why this team is in the AFC Championship.
I also think too that it is getting rid of the turnovers, but it's also, I think, sometimes instead of going for the home run play, take a single or a double.
Yeah.
And take a 5-yard gain instead of trying to throw it 40 yards downfield for a touchdown. Like
Right.
they had against your Dolphins a few years ago when Tua was out and Skylar Thompson started in a playoff game. They got a huge lead, and then he went into backyard football mode, and turnovers and dumb plays almost got Miami back. They took a lead. They almost won.
Yeah, they did.
Idiotic plays.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's gone. I think it's interesting that, people remember that shootout game they had in the fourth quarter between Mahomes and Allen in the divisional round, that 13-second debacle by Buffalo, which was a shootout. Mm-hmm. And both of these teams are back in the AFC Championship game, Pat, not because they score a lot of points, because they play smart football.
Yeah.
Because Baltimore had more yards than Buffalo. They just turned the ball over 3 times. And Houston outplayed Kansas City. They just had special teams disasters and, bad sacks, which were, sacks are killers too. So it's interesting. It's not so much about those two quarterbacks making these highlight reel plays. It was more about them just being very judicious and smart with the ball. If you were Mark Andrews' teammate, how would you feel about the way this game ended, Pat? If you were a guy that was, in the battle, in the thick of it with him, and that's how you end up having your season end.
I mean, at the end of the day, we all know that it sucks. But Mark has been a guy, a cornerstone for this offense for years, and obviously we would never want that to happen in this moment of him, fumbling the ball and dropping the 2-point conversion to possibly take the game in overtime. Not to say that was guaranteed, because Buffalo Bills it was still like a minute and something,
right.
Minute and 40 something seconds left on the clock. So, but if I was his teammate, man, it sucks. It really does. But for what he has been for our team and what he has done for this organization over the years, I mean, there's nothing I can say to him. At the end of the day, like I said, it sucks that he dropped his ball, and had a costly turnover in the fourth quarter. But at the end of the day, he knows that he has to have ball security. He knows that he has to make that catch at the end of the game. Like, obviously the moment's over, and we want to be able to pick him up as much as we can, because we know at the same time that if he's able to convert the 2-point conversion, or even if he's even able to hold on the ball when he fumbled, who knows what could have happened. Now they possibly could have taken the lead in that ball game. But at the end of the day, Mark is a great player. Again, it sucks that it happens. Hey man, we got to move on, because those weren't that wasn't the singular play that lost us the football game. Like Lamar said, he had some costly turnovers in this ball game that end up ultimately helping the Bills put points on the scoreboard, and things like that. So it's nothing like I'm going to, oh, Mark, you suck, this, that, and the other, man. How could you lose this game for us?
Would you feel that way about a kicker? Because I remember when Vanderjagt missed that kick
Yes.
and it cost the Colts a game against the Steelers in the playoffs, and then Manning called him the idiot kicker.
Yes,
Right
I will feel that way against a kicker, and here's why. Kickers don't practice enough. I'm telling you that right now. So they don't practice enough, man. They go out there and kick. Yeah, you got one job, man. Go out there and kick the field goal. You practice on Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and possibly Friday. On you maybe getting 2 kicks off, and you got tennis shoes on, and we're not even kicking the field goal on Fridays. So therefore, yeah, man, you got one job. So yeah, come down to the kicker. Nah. Well, I don't have that same leisure towards a kicker.
So the suite I was in, the box I was in, was basically perfect position behind that end zone for that 2-point play. And so when the play came in my direction, it was like I had like an all 22. And when it went the other way, I either had to kind of see it from all the way down there or look up at the monitor to get a better gauge on things. And I'll make another baseball analogy. That play with Lamar to Mark Andrews reminded me of when a ground ball is hit back to a pitcher and he has to decide how he wants to throw the ball to first base to get the easy out. Does he underhand it? Does he just soft toss it? Does he throw it in there at normal speed? Because, Pat, the guy was so open. It was like Lamar was trying to figure out, he knew he had the play. It was like he was trying to figure out the exact perfect way to throw him the ball. He looked at him for what seemed to me like 5 minutes. Like, hey, I see you're wide open. Now let me just figure out the exact perfect throw to get the ball to you. And I just wonder psychologically for Andrews if it just got in his head. Like, yep, I got an automatic touchdown. Here it comes right here. Boom. Nothing. Gone.
Yeah, I don't see Lamar gauging that throw. I think that he saw him wide open and he literally just flicked it to him. I think it came down to Mark Andrews trying to figure out how he wanted to catch the ball because the ball came so low to where he really couldn't catch the ball like this, thumbs together. So he was kind of like in a pickle between a hard place, stuck in between a hard place, a rock and a hard place because the way the ball had came. So with his hands came up, they wasn't together, and the ball kind of ricocheted off of one of his hands and went between his arms. I think it came down to Mark Andrews not really having a real clear understanding on how he wanted to catch the ball because if he knew the ball was coming low, he'll put his entire body in front of the football to make sure it don't go anywhere. He probably thought the ball was going to be, numbers high to where he can just.
So why wasn't it there then? I wonder.
Say it again.
Why wasn't it there for him? Why didn't he put it there?
I don't know. I feel like Lamar wanted to put it low and away to where no guy. I don't know if he didn't have a clear vision on the inside, linebacker or the nickelback, whoever that was, rolling out with him. If he had a clear vision of it, so I think he was just putting the ball low and away to where the defender wouldn't have a chance to to make a play on the ball. But Mark got to make that catch.
I agree.
There's no about that. Mark got to make that catch.
I agree with that. I did not think that the defender was going to be able to get over there and make that play, though.
Because also, too, Pony, you have to think about it. 9 times out of 10, when that play is thrown, how is it thrown? Guys are not running into the end zone. They're 9 times out of 10 catching it and falling.
Yeah, they're not that open, I guess is what you're saying. Did you have a major problem with the pass interference penalty that they called where it
looked White?
Where it looked like Keon Coleman pushed off.
I had a huge problem with that because the defender is looking back for the football. He has the right to play the ball just as much as the receiver does.
Yeah.
So therefore, I feel like that was a bang bang play. That was a horrible call on the referee from the referee standpoint for calling that a pass interference play because that was a bang bang play. He did not restrict him from catching the football. He has the right to stand his ground as well, and Keon Coleman pushed him down to the ground. If anything, that goes back to, again, if fans go back and look at that play, right? DBs are taught not. The rule is we cannot touch the receiver past what?
5 yards, right?
The receiver that entire play, his hands was on the DB the entire time, right or wrong?
I think so. I mean, again, like my angle's not
Oh,
great.
yeah. So I'm sorry. You was at the game, so you really couldn't tell.
Right.
Keon Coleman had it. He was pretty much driving Tre'Davious White down the field the entire time. So where is there going to become illegal contact with a receiver? That's that don't exist. So therefore, like I had when I was in the game, always had these discussions with the back judge. They always say we can't see the receiver. We only can see the DB. So therefore, we need more goddamn eyes on the football field to call the game evenly. Because if the DB is at a disadvantage, how can we be successful? Because that was a horrible play.
Well, and I
Tre'Davious White did everything that he was supposed to do as a defender.
Yeah.
To defend that pass, and they called a pass interference.
And there was a guy over for me who pulled up the replay on his phone and said, "Oh my God, we just got a giant break."
Come on, man.
I felt like so Bass made a 51-yarder later in the game, and I thought there was a clear holding on. I think it was Shakir when he came open over the middle where the corner got to him before the ball was there, and they didn't throw the flag. And I honestly think that with now there's so much communication between the league and the eye in the sky and the refs that they're like, you know what, we got to even this shit out because we gave them seriously. Because honestly, that pass interference call on White that took a field goal and turned it into a touchdown.
Yes.
For Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on this game before we get to Eagles and Rams, Pat? Am I missing anything here? Oh,
no,
here's what I'll ask you. Did you feel like Baltimore's offensive game plan as the game went on was good enough? Because I give Buffalo credit for slowing down Henry early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up with good stats. I mean, they're not great. They're nothing like the first game they played against him.
Right.
He had 16 carries for 84 yards and a touchdown. He averaged over 5 yards a carry. But I felt like they stopped him enough early downs early in the game. The guy got going in the third quarter and ended up with good numbers, like I said. But Baltimore got down double digits, and I felt like what they did early in the game was enough to not make this a situation where, oh my God, like Baltimore's got everything working. Lamar running, Henry running, Lamar passing, and they're just, three things and you can't stop all of them. And the one thing you stop, the other two things are going to eat you alive. So I actually thought Buffalo's defensive front, which we thought was going to be huge in this game, actually kind of stood up to the test, Pat.
Yeah, they did. And honestly, I thought what the Baltimore Ravens did, I thought they had a balanced game plan. I just thought with them being down double digits, they kind of had to alter their playbook. I mean, their game plan and try to basically kind of get away from the running game, because you could tell in the first half that they wanted to stick to the running game. But when they got down 11 points going into the half, they knew Buffalo was getting the ball back, which was a big 3-and-out. I can't remember if it was a 3-and-out, but it definitely was. Yeah, a 3-and-out on defense to get Lamar back the ball to try to get the offense going, and they end up getting it going late in the third quarter. But for the most part, I thought the game plan was A-okay. It's just that they got behind the 8 ball so early in the game to where they had to play catch up. So the turnovers, the first interception. Then you had the fumble by Lamar with the miss snap, and he tried to make something out of nothing. Then the Mark Andrews fumble. So I just feel like they had the right game plan. I felt like if they would have had the game closer, they would have leaned on Derrick Henry a little bit more to have those rushing yards up. But since they was down and pretty much in a passing situation throughout, the fourth quarter, they had to do what they had to do. But I didn't have a problem with this game plan that the Baltimore Ravens had going into it. Just, the turnover killed them early, and they had to, come from behind for the majority of the football game.
All right, let's do Eagles and Rams. Philly wins 28-22. They have to hold on for dear life at the very end of the game here.
Mm-hmm.
Big play by Jalen Carter. Clock is running out. Fourth down. Stafford misses Nakua, and Philly escapes with a 6-point win. My feeling on this game, Pat, I thought two things won the game for the Eagles. I would say the snow, the elements, and Saquon Barkley.
Yep. 100%.
Saquon Barkley, the offensive line for Philadelphia from a pass blocking standpoint, probably at its worst game of the entire year.
Mhm.
And every time there was space there for Barkley to make a big play, he maximized it and turned it into monster runs and touchdowns. And if they have DeAndre Swift like they did last year, or Kenneth Gainwell or one of those guys in there, they don't win this game.
No.
They have a transformative player, one of the great running backs of the last 20 or 30 years. And he allowed for, in those big moments, to make not just positive plays, but plays that I think ended up being game-changing ones, Pat.
Oh, 100%. This was a Saquon Barkley game, and like you said, the snow, in my opinion, definitely saved the Philadelphia Eagles in this ball game because Matthew Stafford, if he had if the weather wasn't as messy as it was, and he still had 324 yards, yeah. You got to remember. You remember Detroit Lions played the Philadelphia Eagles in like that first Blizzard game, right? In like 2016 when LaShawn McCoy went crazy. So he had familiarity with this, with this weather. It wasn't as crazy as it was, but he had an opportunity to play in this weather. But if the conditions were where it was at the beginning of the game, man, I would have felt sorry for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I would have felt so much better about my pick because once it started snowing, I was like, damn, it's going to be a little tough because we know obviously the Rams don't have the best running game. They can run the game, but we all know that the Philadelphia Eagles play bully ball and they really lean on their, the defensive linemen to not only stop the run but to harass the quarterback. So once the snow started falling, I was like, damn, this might be a long day for the Rams, but they end up, persevering through all of that. What hurt them was the turnovers in that game as well. The costly fumble by Williams when they had an opportunity to really capture the momentum in that ball game. And hell, they had a couple opportunities before halftime on the Jalen Hurts fumble. They wasn't able to recover that. So the turnovers I really feel really hurt, the Rams late in this ball game. And the Philadelphia Eagles really didn't do anything in the passing game to threaten the Rams. It was just a Saquon Barkley show.
A lot of times when you have a game that everybody's focusing on, they concentrate on a couple of things, and then the game goes in a completely different way from where everybody's attention was beforehand. But I listened to our station in Philadelphia, WIP, where they're just maniacs and lunatics that call in to their shows nonstop. And the two things they said, the fans, they were confident they were going to win because they thought they could run the ball on the Rams like they did in the first game. They were right. And the two things they were scared about were Jalen Hurts downfield passing and their kicker, Jake Elliott. And they were right on both accounts. Elliott missed two extra. Now, he made his field goals, but he missed 2 extra points. I mean, It's an 8-point game instead of a 6-point game there at the end. If he makes those kicks, and then, you're still nervous because they can come down and tie the game. But, you can't lose the game in that situation. Right. You're thinking, well, at least at the very least get to overtime. And, Jalen got banged up again in this game. It looked for a couple times like Pickett was going to have to go in and maybe finish the job for him. AJ might have to go get another self-help book because my man straight up, how about a book called Catch? I mean, that ball that Hurts threw to him before the end of the first half, it's either a touchdown or down at the 1 or 2 yard line. Catch the ball, Pat.
Yeah.
I mean, he had it and he tried to move it. I don't know why. And when he tried to kind of change it body position wise, he bobbled it and went out of bounds.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge, that's a huge play. You're talking about things that happened right before the half. I mean, that would have been a monster play there. And it would have been great for, again, the chemistry between those two guys if they hit on that play. But it's just, Barkley is such a saving grace that he glosses over. You're able to. There's things that they don't do well that get they don't seem to be magnified as problems because Barkley is just so impressive. But I mean, their passing game with the weapons they have and with the pass protection they usually get, even though they didn't in this game, needs to be a lot better, Pat.
100%.
I think. I mean, 128 rushing yards or 128 passing yards, 2 catches for Brown for 14 yards, 4 catches for Smith for 21 yards. Goddard was their leading receiver today. I mean, we're talking
they got to be better.
In lower scoring games or more, protect the football style games, but still, that's not going to cut it, Pat, against those teams. I'm sorry, it's just not. It might not cut it against Jaden Daniels next week.
Right, because they're going to have to be able to put some numbers up, because I feel like Jaden Daniels and that Washington Commanders offense will be able to move the ball. It might not be as efficient as they have done throughout the season, but they will be able to move the ball, better than anybody that they probably have played, not only throughout this season but in the playoffs for sure. So I don't. The Philadelphia Eagles definitely going to have to get some more better productivity out of Jalen if they want to be able to win this game. So they could be able to move the ball efficiently down the field. But at the same time, the Washington Commanders don't have the best run defense as well.
No,
so
terrible.
Yeah, so they're probably going to have another Saquon Barkley show to make sure that they can solidify themselves an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl. So I really don't see them, getting away from the game plan that they had today. So AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are just going to be 2 upset campers again next week, because it's probably going to be cold. It's probably going to be snowing again. So I don't see those guys having a huge game next week either.
Look, I mean, I get it. They're a run-first offense, and they should be, because they have Saquon Barkley and they have that dominant offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
But when there's plays to be made in the passing game, and you have a very expensive quarterback, and you have those kind of wide receivers, you expect those plays to get made.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Eagles fans are being unruly or being out of bounds when they say that. I mean, I just thought that there were those plays before the weather even got bad in this game. Did you feel like the Rams did something pass rush wise that Washington or if the Eagles win the NFC Championship game and get to the Super Bowl, did the Rams do something pass rush wise that the other teams can steal? Because their offensive line never gives up 7 sacks in a game.
I mean, honestly, those guys, they kind of beat them with they beat them with pass rush for the most part. They didn't really do a lot of blitzing. They had a couple blitzes in there. Chris Schuler did a great job of mixing it up, coverages and and man coverages versus some zone coverages for the most part. But the guys up front, the D tackles and DN, were eating. They did a lot of nice text games with the tackle in the ends, which caused confusion for the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. So that may be one thing that they may take out of that game plan, because, like I said, the Rams did not do a ton of blitzing. It was a lot of games that it was running between the D tackles and the defensive ends up front that was causing a lot of confusion. So, and those guys, man, those young players that the Rams have over there, Versus and Young, those guys, man, going to be a problem moving forward. Like, I really love what they bring to the table. I love their energy. I love their passion. And if you can get you some corners in there that can marry up with those guys, that can really play some sticky coverage in the back end, the Rams going to be, I know they have another year with Matthew Stafford. They better take advantage of it next year, but they're going to have to find them a quarterback here pretty soon. But at the end of the day, if they can find them some corners and some linebackers to start really putting that defensive side of the ball together, that defense, Chris Schuler going to have some. He's going to be cooking with grease, man, because he really, really put the league on notice with the young talent that they did have, and dealing with the injuries that they had, and when they finally got healthy on the back and on the defense, they really started playing some complimentary football. So It's going to be very interesting to see what the Rams do in this offseason as far as acquiring more talent on the defensive side of the ball. But, man, as long as they have Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford as their quarterback, this team going to be a dangerous team.
My dad wanted me to ask you, this is specifically from him, submitted
Uh-oh.
question. When we were out before, we were at a very small hole-in-the-wall place near the Bill Stadium watching this game. And before Barkley had his first long touchdown run, so you have Hurts has the touchdown run on their first drive, and then they punt the next one. So the third drive, he has a 60-yard touchdown. But before that, on the first play of the drive, Hurts goes over the middle of the field to Smith, and Witherspoon hits him high, and they call him for unnecessary roughness for a hit on a defenseless receiver. And my dad goes, Patrick is like a 0.1% athlete. Could he actually, in a moment like that, change his contact or tackle target when the ball's in? No.
It's impossible.
That's what he said. He goes, this is just complete randomness and luck. They try to legislate a play like this out of the game. But what do? Just let the guy catch the ball? You're supposed to separate ball from man. So if you're the corner, what do you do in that situation? Let him catch it and then try to tackle him after he's running with the ball? Like,
no,
it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation there, Pat.
That's basically what it is. Like, man, it's either it's going to get called or it's not. Because at the end of the day, we're wired a certain way to be a defender. Our job is to not let the guy catch the ball. You know what I mean? Like you said, our job is if the receiver is, dislodged from the ground or, in a defenseless, position. At the end of the day, I'm like Tom Brady. They got to start finding a quarterback for putting him in that position. Because at the end of the day, as a defender, we have to make a play. It's only so much that we can do in a split second. Like, I can understand if this guy, we're, 5-7 yards away from him and he's, diving out to make a catch. Yeah, I can see that then and there, a guy having to make a rational decision, to either hit this guy, let up, to tag him down or this, that, and the other. But if we're right here within, a 2-yard proximity, that's a very, very, that's tough to make a decision on. Should I can I hit him clean? Should I take my target my target lower than what it already is? Because at the end of the day, if we don't make that play or that tackle, if you're not a guy that's within, that have a name for yourself, hell, you could be cut. You could be at home tomorrow. You know what I mean? So now you're not getting any checks. You know what I mean? So it's
like,
very,
I can't
very
imagine
tough.
Chris Shula or their defensive backs coach looks at that play and says, hey, Akilla Witherspoon, bad job. Or tries to turn that play into a teachable moment.
Yeah, they will definitely try to turn it into a teachable moment, but they're not going to be in the film room like, man, this was just a bonehead play. Like, no, they're going like, man, we're trying to coach this as best as we can. That's one of the things the coaches always say. We're trying to coach this as best as we can. You know the rules, figure it out.
Yeah.
That's all they can say. Figure it out, because we're the ones out there in that position. There's only so many coaching points that you can give a player when they're in that position. And coaches also, they be real with themselves. Like, man, that's a tough play. Like, I don't even know what I'll do in that position. Nobody know what they'll do in that position.
Spence, do you know the Byron Young story? So Pat brought up Byron Young, who plays for the Rams and is one of their really good young defensive players. You do not. Do you know the Byron Young story?
I hope it ain't true. I think I saw it. They said the Raiders picked the wrong Young.
This is
talking about that story.
So there are multiple people in the NFL who believe this. So there was a Byron Young at Alabama and a Byron Young at Tennessee, and the Raiders they accidentally picked one.
I hope that's not true, man.
No, there's a lot of people that believe that. Like, not just fans. This is not like something that like somebody on a Reddit board started a rumor about. Like, I've talked to people about this. There's people that legitimately think that they picked the wrong one.
So wait, time out. They probably did not legitimately pick the wrong one. they probably just told them, yeah, we want Bryce Young, but not knowing. I'm sorry, Byron Young, but not knowing which Byron Young that they wanted to pick. Like, we got 2 Byron Youngs. They didn't even clarify with. We got 2 Byron Youngs. We got one at Alabama, and we got one at Tennessee. So what the Raiders should have did, like, man, they probably knew it was 2 Byron Youngs in there. Like, we want the Byron Young from Alabama. Make sure you get us the one from Alabama with the red jerseys.
Well, there was a draft where I think the Jets might have drafted 2 Michael Carters.
Wow.
There was Michael Carter, the running back, and there was Michael Carter, the DB. And I think they ended up taking both in the same draft, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, speaking of the draft, did you see what the New York Giants just put out with their GM and with him having a conversation with his family? Consulting,
no,
bro. It got to be. Is it
from the HBO show?
Yes. I don't know when. I just saw it on Instagram. So apparently, the GM, he had his 2 daughters, his son, and his wife, and all in the office. So he asking his family, who do they think he should pick? The oldest
was this where they said, I think I know what this is. Finish. Go ahead.
The oldest daughter says JJ McCarthy because he's cute. the son goes, you got to trade up and get Jaden Daniels. You got nothing else to lose. We're trying to win right now. So he's like, I don't think we can get him. So the son go, all right, you can't get him. Get Neighbors. Who was the other kid? It was like 3 other names that he ended up throwing out there. But it's like, man, they're can't miss. Then the dad ended up asking the daughter who she wanted, the youngest one. And I can't remember what she said, but the fact that he was in there consulting with his family on who he should take as a freaking whatever pick they had at the first round draft.
The smartest one is what it sounds like. The son,
the son will be a GM in the next 20 years for sure. I won't doubt
it. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll come back and we'll preview the conference championship games on a Thursday night taping that'll drop Friday. And then obviously we'll have one reaction show on Sunday.
Championship night. Sunday, baby.
Monday morning. Do we both agree that Ohio State's going to beat Notre Dame? Pretty big? Okay. And that's all the analysis people need on that one. He's Patrick Peterson. I'm Andrew Fillipponi. Great job by Spencer Ray. This is First and Pod.